Hi and welcome. Kim here with another Just Ask Kim Marketing Roundup. And Facebook is all over the news. In fact, Facebook makes so many changes that lately even I have some trouble keeping up, which I know is pretty insane because I do a pretty darn good job, but I tell you, things have really been moving and shaking with this platform lately. They just can't seem to get enough of the changes. And so today's episode is a little different because I'm going to focus on giving you quite a few links out that you'll want to go read. Now, I usually link out from the video show notes and from the podcast show notes. I tend to link out for those. But in today's episode, we're going to give you a number of links that you'll want to go read those blog posts because I'm not going to be able to go into depth on each of the topics. So definitely be sure to check some of those out. Now, the first one on the dock is that Facebook is no longer just about likes. We've heard for a long time that Facebook verbs were coming, the actions, doing, seeing, reading, watching in terms of video, watching, actions, things such as that we're building on the social graph and building on the open graph way that items connect into Facebook and that items can be acted upon using these so-called verbs. Makes sense because if we're talking about a movie, there's a difference between liking a movie and I am right now watching this movie. And so now, in addition to being able to simply liking something, you're able to take advantage of these verbs. You might not have this feature yet, but most people do. On your profile, rather than your business page, on your profile, when you're posting a status, in the bottom left-hand corner, the little status box, there's a couple icons. Now, one's for location, and there's different icons there. But the one that looks like a little smiley face, that has both your verbs and your little smiley emoticons in it. And put together, this works in a way to let you do things like say, I am watching blank, and blank becomes the taggable name of a page. So if we wanted to do, I am eating popcorn, popcorn being a page, they have a page, yes they do, then that would simply be taggable and it would link to the page. Now, emoticons are, of course, emoticons. They're cute. They little smiley faces with different graphics. Not necessarily the most functional, but useful in terms of the way we communicate in social media. An emoticon tends to carry a lot of weight with it. And so it's cool to see these. At this point in time, pages don't have this feature. This is really unique to profiles. I've got a blog post for you by Carolyn over at Wonder of Tech. So be sure you grab that because she'll walk you through how to use that, how to take advantage of it, and some of the little pros and cons and little quirks and stuff. So be sure you catch up that blog post with her. And something in interesting news is that Facebook may be potentially be buying Waze. Now, if you're not familiar with Waze, Waze is an alternate mapping service, an alternate direction getting travel type service for mobile phones. And rather than simply using Google Maps to get really good directions to places and the guided navigation when you're going, it'll talk to you kind of like little TomTom GPS units will. Well, Waze will not only talk to you, but also provides a very user interactive interface, both in terms of telling you where other users are up ahead of you. Not so useful, but cute. As well as letting you provide data about what you're seeing, such as, is there a cop? Where? Is there an obstruction in the road? Where? Are you in a slowdown? Are you in a traffic jam? Things like this. And it uses this crowdsourcing model to provide some really fascinating feedback when you're traveling. A little battery intensive, so I suggest plugging in the phone, but all in all, a really cool app. And it has a decent user base, although not necessarily, not even a fraction as big as Facebook's. But what this would gain Facebook is access to mapping resources and access to navigation resources and things. Something that Apple has, that Google has, that many of these big key players has, that Facebook just doesn't have. And so Facebook is definitely looking at this. This has been put on the table as a potential buy. Will this go through? I don't necessarily know. I know that there's been some fuss, some things that the Waze team and the Facebook team aren't seeing eye to eye on. Will they negotiate it at the table? It's been a week. Maybe it's too early to say. I think it would be interesting. It would definitely expand the user base of Waze. It would definitely extend the user interactivity of Waze. I'm a little afraid that they might hurt Waze. I'm a little afraid of that kind of project being shuttered in the meantime, because Waze is such a neat project, and Waze is such a unique app out here that really has a lot of people that positively enjoy it. And too often when we see an acquire hire, where they acquire a team to get their programming, to get their logic, to get their databases, they don't always necessarily keep the app in its current condition. So we can be optimistic but cautious on that one. Been a lot of changes coming in terms of Facebook really working overtime to continue to both further simplify their privacy policies and make them more intuitive. I have a blog post for you by the Social Ed Blog Tracker blog, and check that out because there's 11 tips for keeping private on the timeline format. This will really help you stay up on who is seeing what's being shared where, and what settings have been snuck in recently that you should know about. One of my favorites that's new is the Facebook Trusted Contacts. There's been major trouble every time somebody gets hacked and you get locked out and you can't get back in your site. Facebook locks the account to stop the malicious spread of infected links and things like that. It makes sense for Facebook to lock the account. But how can Facebook know who you are and get you back in there? Well, generally this involves a detailed mess of email exchanges, and it makes you want to pull your hair out, and it's a very unpleasant experience. Now Facebook allows you to define 3 to 5 trusted friends who you are able to communicate with outside of Facebook. You have to make sure you have the ability to reach these people outside of Facebook. And these people can essentially vouch that you are you and provide you with a segment of a code. And 3 of those people provide you with the segment of the code. This assumes that you are you, and you can now get in. Of course, there would be some social engineering ways that this could be frauded in a manner, but all methods can be frauded in some manner. Even Facebook's verification system, when that you deal with the email stuff, and even when you're dealing with real people, it can be faked. And so while there is a loophole in it, this is improvement. This is an improvement in the user experience, and probably a pretty good use of some of these social contacts. I'm not sure that this is a bad idea. I wonder if we'll see more of this coming from additional social sites as we go along. There's a great blog post on how to use Facebook to reach your exact target audience over time if you're using your profile in marketing. I'm going to say that her tip in the video she has relies on the use of your profile. If you are not using your profile in terms of your marketing plan, such as I do not, I rely heavily on my page for that, I do not market off of my profile, then the tip isn't going to be so useful for you. But if you're using your profile as part of your marketing plan, be sure to check out that tip because it's actually really helpful. And lots of neat stuff going on in terms of changes to Facebook that some of us like and some of us don't. But as advertisers, the newest thing that's coming to advertising is the new Facebook video ads. Now, when I first heard the idea of video ads, I thought, okay, cool, this could be used for good. This could be a neat idea. I am, however, not particularly fond of the fact that these are going to be in newsfeed ads, but are actually pop-up lightbox style video ads that autoplay. Now, maybe it's just me, but for the duration I've been online, I constantly look for ways to stop autoplay videos. I consider them obnoxious. I consider them aggressive. I consider them just really interruptive. They are a disruption media. Now, all ads are really disruptive. They do intend to try to catch your eye, but some things are so blatantly disruptive that there's a lot of pushback against them. Is Facebook going to be able to pull this off? That's a really good question. They've opened up 4 spots for video ad providers for the summer season, and of which you will only be cap it at a maximum of 3 videos that you might see per day. And this is at a price tag to the advertiser of $1 million per seat. Wow. All right. That's going to take some ROI proving. You know, at the same time, though, there's a very, very hefty price tag on the advertising that appears when you log in or log out, that sign-in screen advertising. That carries a very hefty price tag, and yet companies continue to do it. As Facebook expands their model by which they're able to document ROI and document purchasing, it's going to be interesting to see some of that documented in terms of, is the money really there? And is it really producing the return on investment that one would hope? If it is, it's money well spent. If it's not, that's a really big sinkhole. I think that it will be interesting to see what companies take advantage of this out the gate and what companies are willing to risk being that aggressive and potentially getting viewer hostility at them in order to take advantage of this new media, especially when it's really fresh, because when it's really fresh, people will not have figured out how to block it. And it could be an awful lot of eyeballs. Going to be interesting to see where that goes. Now, if you've got a fan page and you're interested in improving your marketing, I've got a simple checklist to improve your fan page. Walk through those 12 little steps. Do the things you need to do on your fan page. Definitely going to help you out. It's an infographic format if you're a visual learner, or I've got it listed out in a list for you. Really easy to put into play, and some quick things that you can do to really improve your marketing on Facebook. Definitely something to check out. Now, Facebook use has been in the news a lot this month. And it has a lot to do with, originally there was some erroneous data released, and not just released, it really wasn't released because it related to advertising budgets, but it was taken out of context, and it was published and said that the number of people using Facebook had fallen by something like 7% over, month over month, and it was a very drastic drop, and it was very harmful to Facebook in terms of their PR. But it turns out that the numbers were taken way out of context, and there's been a lot of stuff that helps balance that out, that shows us where those numbers came from and why they're pretty much irrelevant for judging whether Facebook is on an uptrend or a downtrend. And the most useful of this was an article I found over at Ad Age that talks about, or excuse me, not at Ad Age, that was over at, where was it? And the most useful of these was an article I found over at Marketing Land, also at WebPro News, that talks about Facebook's earnings year per year being up 38% year over year, a 28% growth on daily active use. I'm not sure if that's year over year, but I suspect it is. And mobile use is up 54% year over year. Yeah, if you don't realize by now that mobile is where we're going, you're behind the curve. You have starting to miss the boat. Mobile is where everything is at the moment, to the standpoint that when I send out my newsletter, my email-based newsletter, more than 20% of all opens are opened from a mobile-based email client. I know that more than 20% of my email viewers are expecting a newsletter that is mobile compatible and links that are going to be mobile friendly, and that means not linking to pages that have video that is only flash based that they can't access. And so you've really got to pay attention to mobile in your marketing today. Now, in terms of those stats though, where is the industry trending? We know that Facebook is trending positive, but what are teenagers doing? Teenagers are always at that edge of where online tech will go, where technology is going. They drive and they fuel new platforms, and they drive and they fuel where we're going simply because they went. Now, it doesn't always mean that everything that they latch onto will become a blockbuster, but it's often a very good indicator of where the industry is going. I've got a blog post talking about whether teens are abandoning Facebook. There's some stats, some numbers, some things you'll want to pay attention to, and that links you to a post that actually talks about some of the things that are hot with teens at the moment. And I think some of those will surprise you. If you've not seen that blog post, give it a check, because some of the things teens are up to at the moment is really going to catch your eye. Now, some things that might catch your eye is something fun to do. There's a blog post over at Search Engine Journal that talks about 6 interesting Facebook tricks that you might not know. I've talked about some of these before. A lot of them I've talked about on my fan page, but I haven't put them together in quite such a fun manner. And the blog post over at SEJ will give you some neat ideas. There's some cool stuff on there you can try, some things that will give you some ideas both in your marketing as well as just having fun with the platform. And that really, at the end of the day, is kind of the sum of where we want to be with Facebook. We want to be in that healthy blend of marketing and accomplishing our marketing objectives while having a good time with the platform. Because honestly, if you're snarling and gnashing your teeth at it, if you're really fighting with the platform, if you're disliking the platform, it's going to come across in your tone. It's going to come across in how you do or don't do your marketing. It's going to come across in your attitude. And it is really best that you focus on trying to stay very positive through all these changes, on trying to have the right mindset in this, even when it's challenging. And sometimes that means looking for fun things to do. Sometimes it means looking for ways to get creative and to allow yourself to just kick back, relax, and enjoy it a bit, because even if it's slightly out of brand, you enjoying the platform is a far better user experience for your readers than when you are very uncomfortable with the platform, because it's going to come across in tone. So again, have a good time with it. Focus on staying in the positive, and good luck in keeping up with all the changes. I appreciate you checking in here with me at JustAskKim.com, and this has been another Marketing Roundup.